All right, come on in, pull up a chair. Because for more than 60 years, there's been one book, one single book, whispered about in Hollywood. It's like the town's dirty little secret, a collection of the darkest, most salacious stories the Dream Factory ever tried to bury. And that book is Kenneth Anger's Hollywood Babylon.
But here's the crazy part. Critics, insiders, they all said the same thing. It's vulgar, it's crude, it's sensational, and yeah, it's pretty much all lies. And yet somehow this book became one of the most influential things ever written about the movies. It wasn't just a book. It was a promise to air out all of Hollywood's dirty laundry for the entire world to see.
So that's the real question, isn't it? How did this book, a cocktail of rumors, myths, and just straight-up fabrications, manage to keep its claws in our culture for decades? Well, let's pull back the curtain and take a look, shall we? See, to really get the power of Hollywood Babylon, you have to understand that people didn't treat it like just another book. Oh no, this was a forbidden text. It was filled with the kind of secrets the studios spent millions to keep under wraps, the kind of truth that could crack the whole glittering facade of Tinseltown right down the middle. This was not your grandma's celebrity biography. Anger pitched Hollywood as this cursed place, a modern-day Babylon overflowing with excess and decay. This was the granddaddy of all tell-alls, a gritty, tabloid-style deep dive into the glamour, the violence, the sex, the addiction. And let me tell you, it was addictive. And this timeline right here, this really tells you everything about its mystique. Anger had to get it published in France first, just to get around America's super strict obscenity laws at the time. When a bootleg copy finally washed up on U.S. shores in '65, it was banned almost immediately. So for 10 whole years, this book was pure contraband. You had to know a guy who knew a guy just to get a peek. That ban didn't kill it. It made it a legend.
So who was this master manipulator? Who was the guy pulling the strings behind this masterpiece of muckraking? Well, to understand the book, you really have to understand the man. And Kenneth Anger was a character way more bizarre and fascinating than most of the stars he was writing about.
You see, Anger wasn't some nobody looking in from the outside. He claimed he grew up inside the machine, that he was a child actor. He had this deeply twisted love for the idea of Hollywood. He practically worshipped the same idols that he was about to spend 300 pages gleefully tearing down. And just look at this list. Every single piece of this puzzle fed into the book. His work as one of America's first openly gay filmmakers gave him this razor-sharp eye for Hollywood's fake, manufactured masculinity. His deep belief in the occult, following Aleister Crowley, made him see Hollywood as a place of dark magic and rituals. He was an artist, a total rebel, and at the end of the day, the ultimate insider who decided to burn it all down. Okay, let's get to the good stuff, the real juice. According to Anger, the silent era wasn't some time of quaint innocence. No, it was a wild, cocaine-fueled party that came to a screeching halt with a series of scandals so massive they almost took down the entire industry. And Anger tells these stories with just pure, unadulterated glee. He goes all in on the most graphic, most disgusting rumors about the Fatty Arbuckle case, cementing that since disproven story about the champagne bottle. He paints the William Desmond Taylor murder as this inevitable result of a town drowning in its own depravity. And all of Thomas's death, not a tragic accident, but a glamorous, drug-fueled suicide. This was the foundation of his Babylon, a city built on sin and secrets. Okay, so here's the million-dollar question. How much of this absolutely explosive book can you actually believe? This is where the legend of Hollywood Babylon gets, well, it gets really complicated. Because Kenneth Anger was never going to let a few pesky facts get in the way of a good story. You gotta understand, Anger wasn't a historian. He was a mythmaker. His goal was never accuracy. It was to create a whole counter-mythology to the squeaky clean image the studios were selling. He was building a case that Hollywood was a cursed, corrupt place. And if he had to invent some of the evidence, well, so be it. I mean, just take one of his most infamous stories about the death of actress Lupe Velez. Anger paints this absolutely grotesque, shockingly undignified picture of her final moments. It's an image that just burns itself into your brain. And it is completely 100% false. Years later, the actual police photos from the scene came out, and they showed a totally different story. No toilet, she was found peacefully in her bed. But Anger's version? It was so much more scandalous, so much more Babylon, that it's the version that survived. And then Then there's the big one, maybe the most legendary piece of gossip to ever crawl out of this book's pages. The story about the original It Girl, Clara Bow, and the entire USC football team. I mean, it's a story so wild you almost can't believe it's true, which, is probably a good instinct to have. Because again, there's not a single shred of truth to it. It was a total fabrication, a nasty rumor that was probably born from the deep-seated misogyny of the era. And Enger? He just scooped it up and blasted it through his literary megaphone. It fit his narrative of a town of depraved gods and goddesses perfectly.
So if the book is so full of lies, why on earth are we still talking about it? Why has its dark, twisted vision of Hollywood not only survived, but, you could argue, actually thrived? Well, that's where we get to its real, lasting power.
Hollywood Babylon did something truly profound. It was basically fake news before we even had a term for it. It cooked up myths so seductive they actually replaced the truth. But most importantly, it cemented the idea that underneath all that glamour, Hollywood was a fundamentally dark and corrupt place. It practically invented the blueprint for modern celebrity scandal.
And really, the secret to its appeal is something a little darker about us. The book taps right into that feeling of schadenfreude, that little bit of guilty pleasure we get from watching famous, beautiful people fail. Anger knew that we don't just want to build our idols up. There's a deep, dark part of us that needs to see them come crashing down.
And so this is the thought I really want to leave you with. Kenneth Anger was writing about gossip that spread through whispers and back alleys. Today, we've got social media, anonymous forums, a 24/7 scandal cycle that runs on outrage. So you have to ask yourself, has Anger's twisted vision of a world built on rumor and reputation shredding just become our reality?